Good morning. I'm Rob Pegoraro. I'm a tech journalist from Arlington, Virginia. We may have some of your coworkers coming to our town at some time soon.
I can't say for sure.
All right. So let's start. One of these companies is a little better known, so you get 30 seconds to talk about your employer. You have 3 minutes, and then let's get into it.
Hi, yeah. I work for Amazon Web Services. We are a cloud provider of on-demand resources, compute, storage, networking, machine learning, IoT, all the services you need to build a structured business in technology with a global presence, and we're focused on startups. We think startups are the center of innovation and economic growth, and we're really excited to be at Web Summit here this week. We've got a presence in one of these halls over here, and we're running technical sessions all week. I invite you guys to attend.
All right, and I'm Nicolas, co-founder and CEO of Algolia. We're not as well known as AWS yet. We're a search and discovery engine. We help developers of companies like Twitch, Medium, Under Armour, and thousands of others to deliver a great search experience inside their own website, inside their own apps. So if you search on any of these websites, you're actually using us behind the scene. We power about more than 1 billion queries every single day today from global infrastructures of 60 data centers around the world.
All right, so let's talk first of all, what were we doing wrong with the bad old way of running a SaaS business without a developer-centric mindset? What did the pointy-haired bosses get lost in that way?
Well, I think there's a couple of things to say about developers. They're essentially the potential to be the power user for your platform. They build the types of solutions that can be automated or provide integration points with other systems that can rapidly accelerate the use of your service. So if you're a SaaS business and you're thinking about engaging with developers or thinking about targeting to developers for usage, it's a really important part of growing your business. You want to think about the experience you provide to developers because they're going to be the drivers of the large-scale usage of your business if you're a SaaS provider.
Yeah, I think that the way companies are choosing their software, their stack, their tools has really changed a lot in the last 10 years. 10 years ago, developers didn't have a choice. They had to use the tools that were chosen by the CIO or whatever. Today, they are becoming more and more the new decision makers. And even if they don't make the decision, even if they don't buy, they have incredible influence on the choices that are made. And that's basically what changed a lot in the market, and that's what helped companies like ours, API-first companies, really to take over that market progressively. And I think it's only going to continue in that trend in the future.
So now that we've established a little bit how developers are not like your typical customers, let's talk about the sort of cultures you're trying to develop. I think you both have used the phrase culture of creativity. How do you develop that, so to speak?
Well, creativity is, the first thing to recognize, I think, is creativity can come from anywhere, both inside your organization as well as from your customer base. At AWS, we try to listen very closely to what our customers are telling us. More than 90% of the AWS roadmap is driven by direct customer requests. And so when we listen to customers and pay close attention to customers, they tell us the sorts of things they want, and we use that to inform the things that we're building. So customers provide a great creative influence for us. But inside the company, we spend a lot of time thinking about how to do something faster, more simply, more quickly, and we take those innovations and focus on those innovations and try to hone them and repeat them over and over again. And those sometimes they turn into products. So for example, Amazon Kinesis, as well as our AWS Code Pipeline, those are all services that were actually internal services that Amazon built itself in order to achieve something to support our customers. And then we turned around and took those things and made them into products for our customers to use. the critical part here is you want to give your teams the ownership and the control and the feeling that they can go ahead and do those sorts of things. So letting the team own the responsibility and being in charge of the responsibility is really important. That means you've got to get away from groupthink or hierarchical model structures where you've got to get 1,000 layers of approval. You've got to let your teams own their decisions and run with them in order to innovate on behalf of customers.
Yeah, I cannot agree more with everything you said. Maybe taking another look at it and looking at what we did in terms of marketing, developer marketing especially. What's that experience? You know, creativity, the good ideas can come from everywhere. And in that case, it came from one of our interns working on PHP. Basically, he told us, hey, there is this new trendy framework called Laravel. We should invest there. Sure, go ahead. He ended up doing an integration, but more than that, he did a pull request to power the search inside their documentation. It was pretty poor, so he did a pull request, got a great search, accepted the pull request, all was good. And that led to a lot of signups. That led to a lot of awareness in that community, and that made us the default, the de facto search engine for anyone working with Laravel. We wanted to basically double down on that, and so we developed what we called dog search. How can we do that for others? So today, a few years after, we're in nearly 1,000 search documentations from React, like many open source projects from Facebook are using us, Vue.js, Bootstrap or Stripe is using us. All of that for free. We do that, it's just a marketing action, and it has a tremendous impact on us, and it just came from the one idea from one intern a few years ago.
So the other important bit of culture that I think sometimes has got lost is a culture of security. You know, in commercial aviation, people talk about the culture of safety. Everyone is empowered to say, this doesn't look right, let's look at this. How do you also develop a culture of security so that bugs don't get leaked out, people do configure their stuff right, since certainly the past year or so of tech headlines out of the US have revealed we have some issues with that.
Yeah, security is top of mind for AWS. It's a core responsibility we take very, very seriously. We've got a shared security model between ourselves and our customers. We take care of the security of our physical infrastructure, the networks, the servers that we run, as well as the physical locations, all the way up to the hypervisor. But the workloads that run on top of AWS, there's a responsibility for our customers to make sure they're using it in a responsible way, securing their resources, and making sure that they are protecting the information that they have and are compliant with the rules that they have to be aware of. So we give them tools to do that for encryption, at rest, in transit. We give them firewall protections, audit control mechanisms, the tools they can use to help their business become successful. And it's really important to us that we help our customers understand security, because when you're a SaaS company, you're asking people to trust you as a business to give your information, your data to them and look after it with a real sense of stewardship. And that's a big responsibility for companies to take on. So we try to help as much as possible. AWS has got a collection of resources, architectural guidelines, best practices for SaaS companies that are looking to build on top of AWS. If you just Google AWS SaaS Factory, you'll find pages and pages of it. There's videos, there's online productions, CloudFormation templates. Great recommendations to make sure you're building your system on top of AWS in a way that's secure for your customers.
I'm going to take the point of view maybe of like more a pure player here. The thing is that for a company like ours, or like pure players, best of breed kind of companies, the product is your lifeblood. If it fails, you don't get revenue anymore. Worse than that, the developer community is not forgiving. If you do if you have a big breach or anything like that, you're dead. So let me tell you, we care a lot about security. The thing is that I would even be like a little, controversial here. There is this build versus buy kind of question in the market. If it's important for you, you should build. If not, you should buy. I would say that if it's important for you, you should buy, not build. Except, of course, if it's your own product that you are building. Otherwise, there is no way you can do better than a company for whom it's their lifeblood, for whom they have to do it right, and they are going to be way more secure, they are going to be way more careful than you could ever be, and more than that, they are going to innovate way faster too. So if it's important for you, you should buy.
Yeah, I'd like to echo that. I think it's really important that when you're an early stage company, your resources are scarce, and you want your developers concentrating on the thing that makes a difference for your business, the thing that is incredibly important for your business. If you spend your time replicating something that could easily be used or provided by another service, then you're not putting that energy into making a difference for your business. And that kind of wasted energy on undifferentiated heavy lifting is one of the areas we focus on at AWS, and we try to help customers remove the undifferentiated heavy lifting so they can become more successful as a business.
Now, I have a couple of questions for each of you in particular. Nicolas, talk a little bit about your experience. You would think providing a search service would be difficult in a world where Google exists, but you found this area where they had a product and now they don't, and I guess now they sort of help you in a sort of backhanded way.
Yeah, the thing is that search is definitely in the DNA of Google, but search for consumer on the web. What we do is we look at businesses. We're like B2B. We have a lot of B2C customers, so that means that our product is seen by millions of people, but it's not the same thing as what Google is doing. Google is leaving that market, the B2B market, because that's not where the DNA is. However, Google is our best partner. Why? Because they are educating everyone to expect a great search experience. And that is putting a lot of pressure on businesses to deliver on that new expectation from consumers. And you know what? Search is very difficult to implement. So that became our market. How can we make these businesses, these developers, successful for their own customers, their own consumers?
So my question for you, Adam, is AWS Loft, a co-working space for AWS developers. How did that come around, and how have you evolved the concept?
Yeah, it's an interesting question. So we have physical Loft locations that are open year-round in San Francisco, New York, and Tokyo.
Can you have your Amazon Prime packages delivered there?
No, you can't quite have your Amazon Prime packages there, but all you need is an AWS account to come in. And then we have pop-up locations we've had in London. There's one open right now in Stockholm. We've run them in Tel Aviv, Hong Kong, as well as Berlin. And they really came around from listening to our customers and listening to early stage companies saying that one of their biggest challenges is just the getting started part, getting over that hump. They need technical advice. They need business advice. They need a place where they can talk to other people that are going through the same experience as them so they can make sure they're not going crazy. And so we created these loft spaces to provide that. We run technical programming and workshops. We get founders from other companies to come in and talk and give business advice. We invite members of the investment community, whether it's accelerators, incubators, or the VC community, to give their advice to startups at the Loft. And then we also provide this co-working space where you can get coffee and good Wi-Fi. So the co-working is a small part of it, but we've had tens of thousands of customers visit already this year across those locations, and they've become a really successful place for startups to think about the very early parts of their business growth.
Okay, let's take a question or two from Slido. We have one here about privacy. I think we're all contractually obligated to mention GDPR at least once, so let's cross that off the list. How do you approach data usage collection information in a B2C model where privacy concerns of the end customer data are paramount for your client companies? So it sounds like in some cases a lot of US companies, I was reminded yesterday when I couldn't read a story in an American newspaper, are not quite up to speed on privacy rules.
Yeah, so I think there's a couple of important things here. As a business owner, you have the responsibility for understanding what your commitments is to your customers. And there are a collection of rules that you may have to comply with. AWS spends a lot of energy trying to make sure that we're compliant with industry standards, whether it's PCI compliance for payment processing, ISO 27001, or even GDPR. We make sure that we cross those compliance thresholds for all the things that we're responsible for. But as a business owner, you need to understand and architect your system for a way that makes the most sense for your environment. That means you've got to understand what your isolation methods are, what your encryption methods are, what your tenancy models are, where you put in your compute. All those things are very complicated decisions and are very specific to your business. Again, I would direct this audience to the AWS SaaS factory resources. We've got guidance and guidelines and instructions and examples of how to understand all of those challenges.
I think one important thing to have in mind when you are building your company is that you are going to have to address these questions way earlier than before. When we started 6 years ago now, we didn't need to have any certification or anything like that to start selling to even big companies. Today we do. We need to have like the SOC 2 compliance. The thing is that these certifications have kind of like, how do you say that? Basically, when we are going to buy ourselves, we need the certifications from our suppliers so that it's going to enable us to maintain that certification for our customers. And that's something that young companies don't always see early enough. Us, even if we are just 300 people, so it's not that big a company, already today we are not going to buy any software if the company selling is not SOC 2. And that has a lot of consequences. The main one is that you need to tackle that way earlier in the life of your company than you would have had to do 5 years ago.
Okay, excellent. Our time is up. I hope we've shed a little more light on this issue. Thank you for attending this chapter of Web Summit, or as I think of it, Panels as a Service.
Thanks
all.